Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Sandra Lovell, and I'm the Secretary for the Chamber. I'd like to establish the protocol for the meeting. I'd like to recognize Mr. Clark Connor, Executive Director of the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Arnell, President of the French Chamber of Commerce. And Ms. Rasmel, the Administrative Assistant in charge of export issues of the French Chamber. The Ecosia Board of Directors, pursuant to its power under the bylaws, hereby give notice that an annual general meeting shall be convened at the Jonas Conference Room at the Viceroy Resort and Residence, West End, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., Thursday, June 16, 2016. Snacks will be provided. I now call the meeting to order, and I now call on Mr. Pickering to open the meeting in prayer. Mr. Pickering?
Thank you. Will you all stand? Father, we acknowledge your presence here this morning. We pray today that as we deliberate, discuss, and as we make plans as we go forward, we trust that we will do so for your honor and for your glory. We ask your blessing upon this meeting. We ask your blessing upon our president, our visitors, and all the membership and even invitees that are participating. We pray that you would give us a good time in your presence, and may we give you glory and honor in the final analysis. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning, special guests and fellow members. I'm Keith LeLake, the president of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce, at least for the next hour. And I welcome you here today to our 12th annual general meeting. My job at this point was to welcome our special guests, which would have included the governor, the honorable chief minister, and the honorable ministers of government, the honorable opposition leader, and the chief of police. But unfortunately, we are not graced with their presence today. But anyway, I welcome you because this is your meeting. And it is my hope that by the end of this meeting, we will have charted a new direction for the chamber. And I ask for your active and vocal participation, because these are difficult times. And this is your chamber. It is not Keith LeLake. It's not the board. It is your chamber. And your views have to be heard. And you will today elect a new board who will take forth your mandate to make sure that we generate much needed economic activity on this island. So I thank you, and now I ask that the minutes of the last annual general meeting be tabled, that they should be in your thing so you can read them at your leisure. The next item on the program is my annual report. And I will adopt the protocol as already established. And here is my report. Good morning, members.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You know, times do change. When you say good morning, when I grew up, everybody would respond in unison. Good morning, anyway. Oh, good. You know, time really does fly. It seemed like just yesterday that I stood here before you in this very room to report to you on the state of the chamber. Nonetheless, it is my obligation, my honor, my privilege, and my responsibility to report to you once again. I am pleased to report to you today that despite the many financial and other challenges that face the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce, we continue to grow. At the beginning of 2015, which is the year that we are now reporting from, our membership stood at 150. And by the end of that reporting period, we had increased by a grand total of 39 for a grand total of 189 members. So I think that we deserve to give ourselves a round of applause. My report today is going to take on a different perspective. And I'm going to focus because your support and your involvement is going to be critical to making this happen. We need to change the character of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce if we are going to make a difference in the economic activities on this island. And I will report to you how we should do that. And I also want to spend some time talking about our penchant here on this island, waiting for the next big thing to happen. Well, it is my view, and hopefully yours, that we have so many little things that we're not getting right, that if we focus on all these little things, the big things will take care of themselves. So let's talk about the chamber. In any society, a vibrant chamber of commerce is critical to economic growth and development. A chamber is essentially a network of businesses that advocate for and on behalf of the interests of business. Its origins can be traced back to the country of France as back as 1600. Historically, it is a non-governmental institution that has no real direct role in writing laws or regulating businesses. However, it is expected to advocate and lobby government on behalf of the business community and make sure that whatever laws we put in place are conducive to business operation. Generally, chambers of commerce are classified in two groups, either compulsory or voluntary. Under the compulsory model, All businesses are obliged by law or regulation to become members of the chamber, who in turn has the legal, statutory, and regulatory responsibility to promote trade, further vocational training, promote economic development, and provide general services and assistance in accordance to the need of their membership. This is opposed to the voluntary type of chamber, such as what we have here in Anguilla, where joining the chamber is voluntary and its effect is largely the function of its size, its financial ability, and whatever other individual influence particular members may have. Unlike our counterparts in Dutch and French St. Martin, who are present with us here today, we are a voluntary organization. Our size, we just spoke about, our membership is now at its highest level ever, 189, but that does not generate the financial resources that allow us to be a meaningful partner in the promotion and expansion of economic opportunities. For example, last year, the government issued 1,355 business licenses. And as I reported to you, only 189 of those belong to the chamber. It is therefore easy to understand and appreciate that the resources needed to fund a viable chamber cannot exist at that level of enrollment. Furthermore, whatever efforts we're able to do, the business community at large benefits from those efforts without having to bear the burden. This is fundamentally unfair and has to change. The time has come for us to require that membership in the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce be made mandatory. This is not controversial or even novel, since, as I said, the model exists in our neighboring islands, and it has been endorsed by previous administrations, and the present administration has indicated it has no problem with it. What has to happen, and this is where I need your help and your involvement, is that we got to make it happen. We must make it happen this year. Over the years, we have seen a number of well-intentioned initiatives, regionally, internationally, have been advanced with questionable success and effect. And that is largely because there is no central coordinating force like a Chamber of Commerce to bring coherence and sustainability to those programs. Here are some more reasons why a vibrant, fully functioning chamber can make a difference. Training and certification. A Chamber of Commerce is needed to manage and coordinate training certification requirements in the workplace. The lack of accredited training in our workplace adversely affects the economy. Many of you all may have had this experience where you are having to pay several times to get a simple job done. One, because there's no requirement here that whoever presents themselves as being capable of doing that work can do it. And this is where accreditation comes in. Think of the money that we will save that could be put to further productive use if we took out all that waste and inefficiency related to this factor. Navigating the bureaucratic maze. I don't know how many of you have to deal with government on a daily basis. but we at the chamber do. And it is not an exaggeration to say that our bureaucracy is broken. More time is wasted, money lost, not to mention lost opportunity as our membership tried to navigate this bureaucratic maze. For the simplest of issues, the wait and delay is just not understandable. I'll give you an example. If you are seeking some kind of approval from any department of government, and a particular person is not in, nothing happens. That person may be gone for 1 day, 2 days, or sometimes several weeks. Nothing happens. But business has to go on. Phone calls are rarely, if ever, returned. And oftentimes, we have to resort to a political leadership to get something done. That's not fair to them or to you. You know, we have a bureaucracy that's supposed to function, and it should function well, irrespective of the political leadership. And what I want to say today is that we had a chamber with the resources and the requisite capacity whereby our members can come to us and say, we need this done and that done, and leave it with our members who understand the process and who have the time and the willpower to make it done. We can make these things happen quickly. I just want to be a little bit dramatic here. I want the chamber staff to stand for a minute, please. Could you all look around the room here, please? This is our staff. Miss.
You're doing very good.
And it gets worse. Miss Moses is the only full-time person, and Karen is just a part-timer. So imagine us trying to take on the task of business and trying to further your interest. This is what we have to work with. Our board are all people who have jobs, who have businesses, and devote of their time freely and do not get paid. And this is it. So I hope that you understand the challenges that we are facing. As important as navigating the bureaucratic maze, we need to get in on the process of formulating sensible statutory and regulatory policies. In other words, we have to be at a table before these things happen. Most of us know that most of people in government who are charged with formulating policies affecting business have little or no private sector experience. Most have never had to go through the pain like most of us here do of meeting a payroll either every week or every month. But yet, these are the individuals who single-handedly craft policies that in most cases are counterproductive to economic growth. What I envision is this. If we had a fully functioning chamber, we would have the professionals in place who are qualified to address these. Labor economists, people with vast experience in how economic activity is created, and with stakeholder status, we will be at the table so that these mistakes or these policies are not put into place. Take example our taxing situation here on the island. Do you know that right now we have at least 200 taxing mechanisms on our books? More puzzling, the high non-compliance rate. Yet every budget cycle, additional vehicles, taxing vehicles are passed. without asking the question, why are the 200 things not working? We hear from a lot of people, I see a lot of them here in the room today, about why are we being asked to pay more? Why are the government putting these burdens on us? It is obvious to anybody that our system needs to be revamped, made simple, and has to be done in a way that promotes business activity, not retarded. But here again, the resources are what's needed. I envision a revitalized chamber to be the central point of business activities on this island. It has to be a one-stop shop where you can get assistance in training, business plan development, counseling, and in general getting access for our memberships to much needed information. We need this kind of approach to guarantee success to our membership. So I hope that you will agree with me that in those 4 areas, and there are more, but I can't speak all day, that these are going to become the bases for which we're going to be pushing for this change status. And let me just say, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I fully hold that if the chamber is granted this status, that we must be held accountable and responsible to deliver on what we need to deliver for you. We have to. Now let's look at some of the economic challenges confronting us. The pillars of our economy, tourism, financial services, and construction, continue to underperform. I have come to the sad conclusion that the reason for this underperformance is our continuing inability to address the little things that bog our economy down every day. We can all agree that as tourism goes, so goes our economy. It is the mainstream of our economy. Yet, hardly a day goes by or a week goes by or even a month where the chamber is not contacted on any number of complaints, be it inexcusable treatment of visitors at our various ports, our ferries not operating on schedule, or some other horror story. The issues are so commonplace and we have cataloged them through the years that I am actually embarrassed to be speaking about them. But I have come to the conclusion that no one is paying attention. And the reason for that is no one is being held accountable. We keep looking for the next big thing. We keep looking for this savior to descend who's going to cure all our problems. We have to do the little things right. And I'll make an example. Singapore is held up as a model for the whole world as a country that was transformed within a generation from a third world country to a leading first world economy. And every time you hear an official from Singapore speaks, they always tell you that they focus on getting the little things right. They are obsessive about it. And they hold each other accountable. Excuses are just unacceptable. In tourism, I'll give you an example, for example. Travel among our Caribbean areas has proven to be the most lucrative for our islands. I think several years ago, the the St. Martin, local St. Martin government did a study in terms of who comes to St. Martin. And I'm told that they were quite surprised that our own Caribbean people outperform arrivals and money spent because they come to do commerce. But for some reason, we have imposed visa restrictions that retard that ability, make it so cumbersome. You know, nobody is going to ignore the security concerns that is used as a basis for this justification. But my goodness, can't we come up with other ideas that can facilitate this? I'm told that just last week, the BVI announced that if you have a visa from the US, from the UK, or some other established country, Canada, you no longer have to have a visa to enter the BVI. I mean, there's no rocket science there. And I go one step further. Let's do that, issue the visa on the spot and charge them for it. We can collect that $10, $15, or $20, and that goes to helping us here. But we got to make the process easy and not complicated. Several of our members have been bemoaning the fact that our lax enforcement of our existing laws here are negatively impacting the growth of our own island institutions. Many of our members have invested millions in acquiring distributorships, for example, while a blind eye is turned to the importation of goods covered by those agreements. And I am told that that does not happen in other Caribbean countries. So why do we allow it to happen here? Another example. Expired goods continue to crowd our supermarket shelves while our health officials sit idly by. Expiration dates are willfully obliterated, and those goods are pushed on our local people. Now, how difficult it is to go in a store and pick up a container and see what is the expiration date. How difficult is that? Our island remains dirty. And imagine that we are supposed to be a 5-star tourist destination. We have no coherent policy in place to clean our island up. Uncovered trucks continue to traverse the roadways, littering at will, with no enforcement. This obviously is not a priority. And yet, we want people to come to our island as a first-class tourist destination and enjoy it. Many of our government offices are closed for lunch hour. And that is the time that most of our people have to do business. Now, how difficult it is to reschedule shifts or lunch breaks to allow for the promotion of commerce. People come, pay bills, and get things done. I don't think it's very difficult. I'm sure each of you in your businesses make that accommodation because we can't afford to close. But these are the little things that are retarding us and make things difficult on this island. And as I said before, we keep waiting for the next big thing. So it begs the question, if we're not dealing with the little things, how can we deal with the big thing? Everybody say, let's build an airport. First, it's going to take 3 years. 2, we don't have the money. And on and on. You see what I mean? And we have to realize that every other jurisdiction is also looking for the next big thing. We have to take care of what we can take care of. We have to do all these little things right. The big things will take care of themselves, and you'd be surprised to see the turnaround in economic activity. But I need to challenge you as members of the chamber. Let's say we get this new status, and let's say that everybody's involved in the chamber. There's nothing that's going to substitute for your active involvement. You as a member of the chamber need to be known as such and put everybody on notice that you have to be reckoned with. And it starts with us. For example, we have monthly events in the chamber that are designed to expose our goods and services to each other because we want us to support one another. That is where it begins. You know, sometimes we have good attendance, sometimes we don't. But this is a little thing that we need to do. We need to start supporting each other. And if somebody comes to sell you something, for example, the first question you should ask them, are you a member of the chamber? If you're not, say, sorry, I can't deal with you. It starts with us. We have to support each other. We have to come to meetings. We have to keep our board accountable. We have to let people know that the chamber is what is promoting business, and you're with the chamber. You have to be vocal. I expect this from you. In conclusion, I hope that we can move forward today to create this new environment. We need this energy. We cannot depend on government to create jobs. Businesses create jobs. So we as a chamber, we have got to be at the forefront of the battle in creating jobs. And if we do the little things right, as I said, we'll get there. We'll deal with the big things. Let's be each other's keeper. Now, I'll just briefly tell you some of the things we did during the reporting period. Our business after hours program, which is what I just briefly alluded to, where we introduce each other's to each other's products. We had Romney's Restaurant in January of 2015, Sharpish Shake and Shack July of 2015, Alliance Insurance in November 2015. Government chamber exchanges, very important. We had a networking session at Government House in May 2015 that was hosted by the governor. The chamber sponsored a government/member Q&A session at La View in October of 2015. And it was one of the really vibrant sessions that we had, where we get the chance to question our leadership and to make them understand what our expectations are. We've also provided the services of Dr. Vanette Joseph and Dr. Will Moreland and Mistress Ife Bodijo at La View in November of 2015, who conducted mastermind session on business promotion, etc. So, despite our limited resources, we continue to do a lot of these little things in the hope that we can help our members achieve their objectives. And let me just say that I can't do this by myself. And I have to acknowledge that whatever little success we have, we first of all got to give thanks to Almighty God for His providence. I thank the Board of Directors for their continued selfless devotion for the advancement of the Chamber. Our staff, our two little staff members. Can you give them a hand, please? I wish to extend my deep thanks and appreciation to the Viceroy management and staff for hosting us today. And last, and certainly not least, I want to thank each and every one of you members for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here for our annual general meeting where we handle your business. And may God bless you, and may God continue to bless the Chamber and to bless Anguilla. Thank you. It is now my distinct pleasure to present to you our guest speaker for today. He's Mr. Jean Arnel, who is the president of the French Chamber of Commerce in Saint Martin, I should say. Mr. Arnel is a native Saint Martiner, and I think that I need to say that these days because that's not always self-evident. And he is the co-founder of a firm called Computech, an IT services company which specializes in strategic IT consulting and technology outsourcing. He's currently the managing partner at Computech and is responsible for leading Computech infrastructure and outsourcing services as well as strategic management. After Mr. Arnel has given his talk, I'm sure you will agree with me that he's a results-driven leader. He has a passion for technology and innovation. In 2003, Mr. Jean Arnel and Mr. Alain Romo were recognized as regional and national winners of the National Entrepreneurship Award, the Concours Talents. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Information System and Management from the University of Paris, Dauphine in France, as well as several industry-recognized certifications. He is a member of the alumni of Harvard Kennedy School of Government, MIT Center for Informational Systems Research, and an Arrested Scholar of the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. He is a well-recognized technology leader, not only in St. Martin or in the Caribbean, but throughout the Caribbean. Mr. Arnel was elected to head the French Chamber in July 4, 2014, and I was fortunate recently to be a guest of his for a chamber function, and I can swear to you that I witnessed and experienced firsthand his passion for this work. So without much ado, it is my great privilege and distinct honor to welcome Mr. Jean Arnel to give us the featured address here today. Mr. Arnel.
Mr. President, members of the Executive Board of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce, members of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On the behalf of the members of the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce, in the French part of St. Martin, because we have a split island, and I'm really grateful that Clarence is also present. I'm honored to have been invited to address your 12th General Assembly. Let me first express gratitude to the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce for the invitation, your kind hospitality, Keith, and the members of the board that hosted us last night. I'm accompanied today by our International Trade Officer, Luciana Raspail, who has some information for you on doing business on French St. Martin, as well as a brochure on the chamber. This morning, what I'm going to try to address, as Keith mentioned, first of all, the structure of business representation on French St. Martin, how our chamber is structured and how it works. I'll talk a bit about the evolution of the economy of French St. Martin over the past 30 years, and really what our current macroeconomic structure is. And then we'll look at some of the challenges that we too are facing with a changing tourism industry and global marketplace in general. And finally, I'll wrap up talking about the opportunities that really exist in this world that is much different than the one we knew 10, 15 years ago, where the valuation of Apple, for example, is much more than that of ExxonMobil. So the world is much different than what we knew. Let me just spend a minute talking about how I ended up here in the first place, briefly, to give you some perspective. Although Keith probably introduced me in terms of my education and background. I gained an interest in technology at a very early age, late 80s. Not very old, as you probably will remark. And I realized early on that technology and databases would really be the storage location of all our data for business activity. So I decided to become a information systems architect, and haven't done that for a couple of years. And you realize today we spoke about government inefficiencies, and a lot of that has to do with not leveraging technology in our territories. Now, I'll wrap up talking about how we're going to make our territories smarter, more socially inclusive and sustainable, leveraging technology. So fast forward to 2016, I spent most of my days today in general management duties at Computech and working at the Chamber of Commerce, supporting businesses in their startup development and difficult stages in their life cycle, as well as evangelizing the need for a growth agenda for French St. Martin. In the French system, as Keith mentioned, and this was established since the 1600s, businesses are represented by a chamber of commerce, or a chamber of arts and craft, or a chamber of agriculture, depending on the work or the business activity that these businesses carry out. And this is specifically mandated by law. Chambers of commerces have mandatory membership for all businesses and responsibilities. An obligation to be consulted by government for zoning, land, and commercial activities. An official business registrar. So the Chamber of Commerce is the official business registrar of the 7,200 businesses on French St. Martin. Training and other general and collective missions. Chamber of Commerces are also holders of concessions to manage ports and airports and office parks, etc. So more of an economic development portion of chambers and commerces, and those are mandated by law. Established in 2009, the French St. Martin Chamber of Commerce is a government institution run by elected private sector persons for a mandate of 5 years, which gives us stability to carry out a strategic plan and really accompany the business community. Our executive board consists of 9 members, our General Assembly 21 members in 3 colleges. So we don't have a Chamber of Commerce, Arts, or Agriculture. We have a mixed chamber, and that was our choice on French St. Martin. Our annual budget is a little over €1 million, which is financed by a direct tax paid by businesses for their own representation, as well as government subsidies for specific programs. For example, our international trade officer, Luciana Raspail, is part of a national program with France and the local government for which we receive funding to help businesses reach new markets. The French St. Martin Chamber of Commerce is headquartered at La Maison des Entreprises. We have a 1,500 square meter facility with a 200 seat capacity conference room, an executive briefing center, offices, 6 training rooms, and a public service center for formalities such as business registration. We are currently planning a major expansion to create 400 new square meters of co-working space and a business center for a new type of entrepreneur. Over the past 30 years, it's visible that a lot has changed on St. Martin and a lot has changed on French St. Martin. What I'll attempt to do quickly is provide you with a synopsis of the evolution of our economy and the current macroeconomic structure of it. Let me start with 4 very important facts so that you can follow. In 1985, the population of French St. Martin was about 10,000 inhabitants. And today we are a little over 40,000. In 1985, there were less than 500 hotel rooms on French St. Martin. We had about 4,500 in 1995. And today we are less than 1,500 hotel rooms. In 1985, our GDP per capita was under 10,000 euros per inhabitant. Today, it's about 16,000 US dollars per capita, which is a bit under Anguilla and some of the other islands that are nearest to us, including St. Martin. Also in 85, there was little to no unemployment, and today that rate is a little over 25% due to the decline in our tourism industry. From an institutional perspective, St. Martin, as you know, is a constituent state within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and French St. Martin is a French territory, which abides by the laws of the French Constitution. We obviously have an organic law that really defines the responsibilities of our local government. But for example, if we needed to implement a business license system on French St. Martin, that would require a change of law in Parliament in France, not on French St. Martin. In 1996, the French government attached St. Martin and St. Bart's to Guadeloupe. So a lot of the disparity that we see today with the way how French St. Martin function is a result of the fact that a lot of the central government services that business need are not located on French St. Martin, they're located elsewhere. You may also see a lot of disparity between the infrastructure that exists on the Dutch part of the island and on the French part of the island. And a lot may comment that a lot is happening on the Dutch side, very little has happened on the French side. It is important to note here that before 1955, there was nothing on Dutch St. Martin. There was no port, there was no major hotels, and all of the goods were imported via French St. Martin. And there was very strong political will from that point on to build out Dutch St. Martin as a viable economy and to what we know today. So in the 60s and 70s, most of the St. Martiners left agriculture and worked in hotel construction, which built the tourism industry that we know today. The economic boom that we experienced on French St. Martin between 1985 to 1995 can be accredited to a law that was passed in France, known as the defiscalization, that would provide tax credits to French constituents that invested their money overseas. So you would get a 75% tax credit on your income tax if you are a French constituent invested in St. Martin. So we did a lot of construction, particularly in the tourism sector, as a means to boost our economy. Obviously, there are many positive and negative reviews regarding the usage and effective economic, social, and environmental impact of these laws. However, the effect has mostly been positive. The major challenges sustaining the hotel rooms that were constructed have been the misalignment between the product, as you know, Europeans like smaller hotel rooms, and the demand, or tourists are for the most part North American, and higher operating costs. France does, as you know, have a social safety net and a healthcare system that is very good, but that has a cost, which impacts the cost of doing business on French St. Martin and affects our competitiveness, which I'll speak about later. So what happens once the time limit expired on those tax credits? A lot of the investors sold their shares in these hotels, and we have about 3,000 hotel rooms on French St. Martin that were transformed into condo facilities rather than hotels. As an ultra-peripheral region and an integral part of Europe, French St. Martin also benefits from European regional development funds, which are different than the EDF funds that Anguilla or Dutch St. Martin have access to. They finance infrastructures, both public and private, such as the Marigot waterfront that you may see when you arrive in Marigot. So as hotel construction slowed in 1995 and the island was hit with a significant hurricane, we started building over 2,000 social housing to house the immigrants that came to the island, primarily as part of the development of the country. By then, the population was over 30,000, and some 1,400 hotel rooms were closed during that period of time, with effects, as you can imagine, on the economy. And I was very careful in talking about social housing and not habitat, because there's a great deal of strong university research on the difference between housing versus habitat, but I won't get into that. So with less stayover tourists, the economic impact was significant, considering the daily spend of tourists. And in the early 2000s, the introduction of the euro as a currency on French St. Martin, knowing that we're in a dollar space, as well as rising fuel prices, the 9/11 events, etc., had consequences on our economy. The cash flow of businesses, investments of businesses, consumption and disposable income of families. And as a result, there has been a fragilization of the social cohesion of our territory with a correlation such as delinquency, crime, etc. The constitutional change that we experienced in 2007 provided a great deal of hope for a new setting, where French St. Martin will be in charge of economic development, tax matters on its own, no longer being dependent on Guadeloupe. We now have a situation where our territory is attractive again, with a 22% corporate income tax rate, 15% dividend tax rate, and a tax system that we believe will continue to become simpler, more harmonized with our geographic environment, and more universal so that everyone pays. Our government has also taken measures to liberate land by exempting families from succession taxes and transfer taxes on property purchases. The institutional structure, however, of French St. Martin remains complex. Being part of Europe, we are subject to EU norms, laws, and regulation. Simple example, if there was an Anguillian who wanted to establish an air conditioning business on French St. Martin, that person would require a European degree from one of the EU member states. We must abide by the French Constitution. Our major jurisdictions, civil, criminal, and commercial, are located in Guadeloupe. And our major infrastructures, both airport and seaports on the island, are located on the Dutch side. And although both sides of the island leverage our infrastructures, When you read the Breer report on the economics of cruise for 2015, it's a report that is done for the FCCA on the economic impact of cruise. St. Martin leads the pack of all Caribbean islands on the economic impact of cruise, $422 million. But we have a difficulty on St. Martin evaluating the direct economic impact of cruise, seeing that the cruise passengers do not directly disembark on the French side, but they basically tour and access points of interest. Therefore, our economic situation is a result of a lot of international, national, and local factors, of which many provide new encouragement. The stabilization of the EU dollar rate. You guys have probably heard of a supermarket on St. Martin by the name of Super U that is doing great business. Anguillians are even shopping there now. A US forecasted growth at 3%, which is good for tourists and stayover passengers. Not throwing anything regarding the upcoming US elections in there. New fiscal measures to reduce taxes on businesses. The deployment of island-wide broadband fiber optic cable by the government and supported by subsidies from the French and European governments, and a strong desire to expand and diversify our economy. This complex operating environment, which seemed to hamper our attractiveness and competitiveness, should be an underlying, should provide also for many opportunities. 4 important facts that you need to know about St. Martin today. And if there's anything you remember about this talk, are these 4 important facts. St. Martin as an island has the best accessibility in the Northeastern Caribbean by sea, air, and internet. We have 3 major fiber optic cables coming into the island, and which is very important in the world that we're in today. Secondly, we have a very good educational, social, and health systems. Third, 40% of our population is under the age of 30, and they are all either bilingual or trilingual. Fourth, we have a stable political and regulatory environment which provides a safe operating environment for investors. So, when we look at these important facts and the challenges such as the decline in private investments, higher operating costs, and increased public spending, particularly on social issues due to the decline of the economy, we realize that we need to think differently about the growth of the economy. We can't compete with mass tourism because the cost of operating or the cost of a hotel key is more expensive due to European norms. As an example, the cost of building a hotel room on St. Martin is 25% higher as opposed to St. Martin, which is the same physical island. So we can't compete on a dollar for dollar basis. We need to compete on value and quality. According to the National Institute of Statistics, in 2014, the walk-in population of St. Martin was 17,800 people. That activity rate had declined from 1995, as I mentioned earlier, due to change in market conditions. In 2014, the public sector employed more than a quarter of the workforce, and its productivity is more or less identical to other French overseas territories. Furthermore, 1 in 10 employees work in the construction industry. According to industry professionals, compliance with European standards and higher minimum wage salaries affect the competitiveness of businesses on St. Martin, both on the local and international markets. For example, the hourly minimum wage on St. Martin sits probably around $5 US, a little over 10 on St. Martin. So having looked at the evolution of our economy and these major challenges, the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce took the initiative with the government to contract a consulting firm to formulate an economic vision plan, St. Martin 2030. So what are the real opportunities for us in terms of economic expansion? And this is where, as President Lake mentioned, the Chamber has a strong role to play in terms of advocacy of what our economy should look like. We looked at our regulatory environment, our monetary environment, the structure of the economy, and our labor force. Government services, many of which are still in Guadeloupe, and utilities, many of which are not managed locally. We also looked at a few markets: Anguilla, Aruba, Bermuda, Barbados, the BVI, and obviously St. Martin in terms of their macroeconomic structures and their GDP composition. We also took a keen look at regional structures such as CARICOM, and the CESP discussion has been happening since the 70s, as well as the OECS as targets for regional integration. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to address the French Senate on the topic of regional integration in the Caribbean. And as you know, as simple as it looks on paper, the CARIFORUM, for example, of 15 nations, 11 different legal jurisdictions, 11 different monetary systems. So in addition to other travel and logistics issues, it is quite complex in our Caribbean space to actually do business from one jurisdiction to the next. The French St. Martin Chamber of Commerce is supporting and the structuring of our primary sectors. Fishery, we are currently working with European funding operators to build fishing ports and a new marketplace. But we do also need, considering the amount of waters that Anguilla have, better cooperation with your government, which should be formalized. We regularly have fishermen from St. Martin that are not licensed to fish in Anguilla waters who get locked up from time to time in prison here. Or we get Anguillian fishermen that come to St. Martin with their fish, and those produce are seized and thrown in the garbage by the French authorities. So you'll see that the love that have binded us for centuries is faced with some bureaucratic and administrative complexity today. Secondly, agriculture. We've recently launched a new slaughterhouse on French St. Martin where we can properly slaughter animals from not just French St. Martin but all the islands around us in order to have them compliant to European and international standards for sale and consumption. In all of these areas, the Chamber of Commerce is collaborating with other chambers in France to provide training. A very simple example, we have a session that we'll be delivering on St. Martin and in a part of France with 15 students on fishery in order to understand how to transform fish. Not just fish and sell the fish, but it's really about the transformation of the fish and the different subproducts that you can make from it. And this is done, like President Lake mentioned, through a certified course done by our Chamber of Commerce with other Chamber of Commerces on the national level in France. We are strongly advocating the need to create a mindset of regional economic expansion through an export program, which Luciana runs, which is strongly supported by the local government and French export partners. We are also strongly advocating the need to build out 2,000 new hotel rooms on French St. Martin over the next 10 years, leveraging investment incentives and labor cost reductions. Our study on economic expansion is really focused on building a smarter, more socially inclusive and sustainable St. Martin. And this is not just about building a country that is technology savvy. Keith spoke about doing the little things, and Singapore as an example. If you look at Singapore's framework for building a smart nation, a more intelligent country, you'll realize that issues such as complaints and the way those complaints are dealt with use a digital platform. You spoke about government officials being off island for days. We've introduced technology, even in St. Martin, that deals with digital signature using workflow of processes where government officials can digitally sign documents regardless of where they are. I firmly believe, not just because of my technology background, but the real opportunity for our islands are leveraging technology to build services that we're not only going to sell to the other islands around us, but that we can sell on a broader base. Bermuda has done it. You've done it also with your international financial services business. This is an opportunity to leverage the internet, leverage our accessibility in our geographic location from the US and Europe to actually build countries with higher value in terms of the employment opportunities that we create for people. So it is our belief at the French St. Martin Chamber of Commerce that further diversification of our economies will emerge as greater contributors to the GDP than tourism if this development of smarter nations is properly crafted and executed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arnell, and I know that our membership cannot wait until we get to any other business to have a lively discussion on some of the points you raised. And thank you for your thoughtfulness and more important, the recognition of the ties that bind us that are now coming under some stress, which is something that we need to be talking about. So again, thank you on behalf of the Anguilla Chamber. We now move to the business aspect of why we're here today. And I will call on Mr. Jerick Evangelista to provide the auditor's report. Mr. Evangelista.
Thank you, Mr. Lake, the board of directors, the members of the chamber, the guests, good morning. I'm reading this report on behalf of Mr. Claudel Romney, the senior partner of BDO LLC. Mr. Romney is currently off island doing a business meeting. So, independent auditor's report. To the Board of Directors of Anguilla Chamber of Commerce and Industry Limited. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of Anguilla Chamber of Commerce and Industry Limited, the company, which comprise the statement of financial position as of December 31, 2015, and the related statements of activities and changes in net assets and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. Management's responsibility for the financial statements. Management responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with international financial reporting standards, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards in auditing. Those standards require that we comply with relevant ethical requirements and plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. An audit involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. The procedures selected depend on our judgment, including the assessment of the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. In making those risk assessments, we consider internal control relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in order for us to design our procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of these internal controls. An audit also includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting policies, use and the reasonableness of accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statements. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the company as of December 31, 2015, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with international financial reporting standards. Emphasis of matter. Without qualifying our opinion, we draw attention to Note 7 to the financial statements, which shows that as at December 31, 2015, the company held 38,715 of cash in the National Bank of Anguilla Limited. In August 2013, the National Bank of Anguilla Limited was placed in conservatorship. The company has continued to use the cash held with this bank for its day-to-day banking activities. As of April 28, 2016, the date of our audit report, the company held 20,017 of cash in accounts at the National Bank of Anguilla Limited. If the bank is unable to repay the cash holding, it could materially impact the company's liquidity, financial position, and performance. Signed, BDO LLC, Chartered Accountants, April 28, 2016, The Valley, Anguilla. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evangelista. I now call on our Treasurer, Mrs. Felicia Hill, for the presentation of accounts. Ms. Hill.
Good morning once again. I'm going to read the financial report for the year ended 2015, December. If you can turn with me to page 4, the balance sheet, the statement of financial position. And I read, statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2015. Our total assets, which included cash at bank, $31,433 in 2015, as compared to $38,715 in 2014. Our accounts receivable, $1,346 as compared to $1,568 in 2014. Other assets, $560 in 2015 as compared to the same amount in 2014. Property and equipment, $6,818 in 2015 as compared to $8,465 in 2014. That brings us to a total asset amount of $40,157 in 2015 as compared to $49,308 in 2014. Our total current liabilities, $11,636 as compared to $20,958 in 2015. Our net assets, which comprises of unrestricted net assets, $28,521 as compared to $28,350 in 2014. So our total liabilities and net asset as at the end of the period is $40,157 as compared to $49,308 in 2014. We turn to the next page where I'll just read the gross figures in the interest of time. Our statement of activities and changes in unrestricted net assets for the year ended December 31st, 2015. Our total revenue and gains, $128,137 in 2015 as compared to $133,140 in 2015. We go down to our expenses. I'm going to read the total there. It's $127,966 as compared to $145,946 in 2014. That basically brings us, I would say, to a net profit and a loss position in 2015 of $171 in 2015 as compared to a loss position in 2014 of $12,806. If we turn over to our statement of cash flow, this basically shows, the level of cash receipts versus how much was paid out and the cash at the end of the year. And, as I listened to my friend from St. Martin, our budget is just about 10% of his budget in St. Martin. It's very small. I would say less, but I'm just rounding the figures off. So we were very small. We're like a shoebox, I would say, Chamber of Commerce. If we look here, we say our receipts from operations for 2015, $128,935 as compared to $130,915 in 2014. Our payments to suppliers and employees, just about $135,403 as compared to $125,607 in 2014. Our net cash used by operating activities totals $6,468 as compared to $5,308. Now, if we go down to our cash at the end of the year, we ended our cash position at $31,433 as compared to $38,715 in 2014. There ends the reading of our financial report for the year ended 31st December 2015. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the accounts have been presented to you, and now, are there any questions? This is your money, your accounts. Any questions before we move for the adoption of the financial report? If there are no questions as to the accounts, could someone move that the financial report be adopted as read by Mrs. Hill? Could I have somebody to move that, please? Could you just state your name, please? Moved by Willis Hodge, and who's going to second the adoption of the financial report? Dr. Bartfield. Having been moved and seconded, all in favor of the adoption of this financial report, say aye. Aye. Those against? Okay. Unanimously adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now I ask Mr. Evangelista to assume the chair of this meeting as we go into the election of directors. Our term has officially come to an end. Mr. Evangelista will conduct the election. And I am told that the present board has made itself available for additional service. And as important, every member of the chamber is eligible to run for this election. So I will now ask for Mr. Evangelista to declare the various nominations. And once the voting is completed, we will move on with the other business while the tabulations are being done and they'll be announced. So, Mr. Evangelista, the chair is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. And as Mr. Lake mentioned, all the board of directors accepted to be a nominee again this year. And plus, we have also one additional nominee, Mr. Desron Bino from Flow. And as well as if there are any interested member of the chamber to be part of the nominee as well, can you just please raise your hand so that we can include your name in the ballot? Anyone interested? At least, I think that's okay. So we have 8 official nominees, and I think I can ask those nominees to please introduce yourself. Can we start with Mr. Lake again, please?
Thank you. I am Akiko Lake. I've been the president of the chamber for the past several years, and I make myself available for re-election as a member of the board of directors, because the directors themselves determine who will be president. And all I can do is pledge to continue my efforts to promote the interests of the chamber here in Anguilla. Thank you.
Good morning, I am Mark Romney. I'm serving as a director for the last 5 years. And I do offer myself once more as a director for the Anguilla Chamber. I'm currently serving, well, my term has not expired, but I have served as the vice president of the chamber.
I'm Felicia Hill. I've been with the chamber for the last 7 years, and my passion basically is working with small business in the promotion of management and strategic planning. And if I'm being elected, I plan to mobilize the chamber's efforts in order to achieve these goals.
I'm Sandra Lovell. I've been with the chamber for approximately 2.5 years. I'm one of the newer directors, former directors, and I'm serving as secretary, or was serving as secretary, and I put myself forward to continue to be a director. Thank you.
Peter Lloyd Richardson. I have been on the board for very extended. But I do get excited about offering my services to human resources and government. And so, services.
Trevor Woodley. Last year I stumbled as to who was represented. So I'm going to do better this year. I continue to give service to Anguilla, especially for development of business, development of social services, and I really enjoy the challenge. Challenge more so about finding opportunities for us to crystallize what we have and move ahead. Thank you.
My name is Carlton Pickering, Senior. I've been on the board as long as Mr. Lake. I've served in various capacities as director, vice president, and presently outgoing now as the acting executive director. And I present myself for your service.
Morning everyone, Desron Bino, country manager at Flow. I've never been on the board, but I do offer myself up for service because I think oftentimes you have to be that change that you want to see. And I know we do have an experienced board, but I think that if you keep doing things the same way, then the end result will obviously be the same. You have a lot of youth, energy, and experience in the telecom sector that I hope to transcend into the board.
Thank you very much, nominees. So please cast your vote by checking the box next to the name of the person of your choice, and you may cast one vote per person from this ballot, from the ballot. And once you're ready, the office staff of the chamber will collect the ballots. Thank you.
My name is I'm one of the directors of AMP Security Services. I just want to share a bit of experience that I had when I worked in business. I also incorporated a sector like this, fire prevention. And a couple months ago, I did a job for a company in Sandy Ground. And I gave them this certification. And a couple of days after, the owner of that business contacted me and said, one government member did not accept my certification. But just to go a bit further, I'm qualified, certified by the Defense of Transportation in the US, also a member of the National Fire Association in the US, and also a member of the National Fire Equipment Association. So I was extremely surprised as to the reason why my certification was not accepted. So I contacted the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, spoke to the minister, organized a meeting. So after the meeting, they said they will look into it and have my equipment inspected. And they gave me the name of the officer to contact. So I contacted the officer on the Monday and said to me, well, I don't know what to look for. And there's the same officer who did not accept my certification. So he said he will have to get someone from the fire department to come and have a look at my place. I was doing a job down at Captain Lucas, so I stayed in my office for an entire week. Postponed the job and stayed in my office, waited for them to come and do the inspection of my equipment. So it took a week, they came Monday, the following Monday, and my first question to them, have you ever used a vacuum fill before? They said no. That's the inspectors. I said, are you trained in the use of a vacuum fill? They said no. So I said, well, how can you certify or inspect my equipment and you don't know, you haven't seen it before? And I was really, really upset. I mean, if it wasn't for my training in law enforcement, I would just lose my cool. But I say that to say this, that I think that Mr. Lake raised the question about certification and qualifications. And I think it is very important. It's something that the government needs to take in hand. And I think that as a chamber, I think it's something that should be on your agenda for your next term, if you're elected, and make sure that you sit with government and come up with some kind of legislation to regulate and govern most of the industries here in Anguilla. As a matter of fact, is that I think the problem is that they pass laws and just dump them on the government employees to implement and apply. I think that every law that is passed in Anguilla, there should be some level of training. The AG chambers must train the people in applying the laws of Anguilla. And I think that is a major, major problem here. But I say this to say this, that up to now, even though they said, well, go ahead and do your business, do your stuff like that, I have not received any written confirmation from the government of Anguilla. It is extremely poor how we do business here in Anguilla. It's like they are counterproductive to what government is trying to achieve. People in government and positions, I think they focus more on the role and the goal of the government. And we need to really make some drastic changes. And I believe that it's based on recertification. As a member and a police officer, I had to recertify almost every year, at least 8 hours in the classroom for every government official, because it seems as if when you get a job here, you're in it for good and no further training, advanced training. I do my training every year in every aspect of my job, and I think that everybody else should do it. Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, we are recording this session, so your comments are being recorded and noted. Any other comments? Yes. Mr. Hodge, I think it is.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
In last year's minutes, you would note that I spoke, and I read exactly what I said. Mr. Clembio Hodge, Director of What We Do in Anguilla, suggested that the Chamber utilize the Hospitality Club of the Anguilla Community College to volunteer their services at the Welcome Desk at Blowing Point to allow the students to gain underground experience in the hospitality field. I would just like to report that I took it upon myself to get those members of the group to do just that, where I introduced the 2016 edition of What We Do in Anguilla at the Blowing Point Port, where I had the Abinale College Comprehensive School Steel Orchestra there, and also the choir, who did Christmas carols because it was in December. They did Christmas carols, and we also had steel pan, and I also included some taste testing from tropical treats and also Anguilla jamming for persons coming into the port and persons around the port to experience some of Anguilla, because I believe that it's very important that persons feel welcome when they come here. And as you say, the small things, doing the small things right, I think that's one of the small things that we can do right. I did it to show that it can be done, and I believe that it should be taken up more frequently for when we have big events coming up. You know, we have during the carnival season, a lot of people coming in. You can easily get those young persons involved, and it's not really a costly thing. Set them up for when most people are coming into the island, and it's really a great experience. I myself enjoyed it, even locals, because you know the sweet sounds of a steel pan would have anybody dancing. So that is just my little report on how that went, and I do hope that someone would take it up and make it more of a frequent thing. Thank you.
Mr. Alan Gums, in case you don't know who he is.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Alan Gums. I see that we have a board of very, very competent people, most of whom I know extremely well, some of them from the time they were very young, and some have worked for me, and some are my friends, and what have you. And I know that you're very well-meaning, and you're trying the best that you can with few resources to make a change in the situation that we have in this country. I'm not sure that the people of this country know how drastic the problem is. For us to be, you know, we've wasted months arguing about the banking situation in Anguilla. When anybody who understands banking, and apparently our government has a difficulty doing that, they would understand that the primary problem that we have in Anguilla right now is that we have a failed economy. And it's important for us in the Chamber of Commerce to understand that that means that many of our own businesses are either failing or going to fail if it continues in this fashion. Now you say, well, okay, Mr. Gums, that's easy to see. I mean, we know since 2009 we had a failed economy. In 2010, we weren't able to, the government wasn't able to make a budget, and they were voted out. We brought in a new government. You see, we have this problem of wanting to politicize everything in Anguilla. Okay, well, obviously a government that was unable to make a budget was a failed government. Okay, we brought in a new government. That government, because of a lack of understanding of tourism and economics, what is the first thing they do? They say, well, we have to make a budget. So what we're going to do is we're going to impose a tax in order to balance our budget. Well, the first thing that any economist would say, or anybody who understands even basic economics, would say, there is no tax that exists that you can place on a failed economy which will do anything except drive the economy further underground. So that government imposed the levy. Not only did they impose a tax, but there's one thing, and it was pointed out today, that brings in and drives the, the greatest amount of income. In fact, that's probably more than 90% of the income into Anguilla. It's tourism. Now that tax on its surface seemed to impose a 6% tax on businesses one way or the other, all right? Well, guess what? That tax didn't impose any tax on Anglic. It did not impose a tax on Digicel or Lime. It didn't impose a tax on Merchants Market or any of these businesses and groceries, etc. Because all they did was tack that 6% of whatever it was onto the cost of their merchandise. But guess which businesses were not able to do that? Your hotels and your restaurants across this country who produce the economy for your country, produce the jobs for your country, and produce all these things for your country. I would submit to you, if you want to take time and sit down with me, I'll explain to you how the tax on tourism was over 20%. We couldn't charge more for a can of beer. We couldn't increase the room rates under the circumstances. We couldn't do those things to absorb that money. The result is that over a course of a 5-year period, you see, that government was not told by the British to put a tax on Anguilla. The British said, reduce the cost of your government. Well, of course. Who wants to reduce their own salary? All right? Who wants to lay off some civil servants? Okay? But that's what had to be done at that point. It wasn't done. They imposed the tax, drove the economy further under. They thought that it would have been poor from a political standpoint to lay off civil servants, because every civil servant has a job and bills to be paid, et cetera, and they felt that that would be drastic for them as far as politics is concerned. Look what it did to that government. They took the worst beating in the history of the Caribbean. For the first time, you had a sitting government in the Caribbean lose every seat. So that system didn't work too well. You say, oh, well, Alan, don't be politicizing things. I'm not politicizing anything, because what happened now with the government we've had in effect now for over a year? They campaigned on the fact that they were going to get rid of this levy that was destroying the economy. They've been in power now for well over a year, okay? And if you ask them, they're going to say, well, but we can't do that because we're not going to reduce our own, we want our pension, we want everything that we want in a little country of maybe 13,000 people, and there's no way that we can produce it. So you see, it's not a political, it's a question of we as a people consistently electing people who do not know economics and tourism. So you say, okay, Gums, you got a big mouth, you're criticizing. Suppose you were in charge. You were basically in charge from 94 to 98. You took the country and you established the tourist board and took the country to 98 when we were #1 in the Caribbean. So what should we do? Let me tell you what you have to do, okay? if we're going to take this country forward and not have a cataclysmic disaster. I mean, the banking situation as it is will produce a cataclysmic disaster. How can we say to the people from St. Martin and overseas, who for years placed deposits in our offshore banks owned by CCB and NBA, that we have no responsibility, CCB and NBA had no responsibility for their deposits? That's the fault of the Financial Services Commission? I'm sorry, I was chairman of CCIB for many years. And there was a specific agreement between CCB and CCIB that CCB was just that, responsible to them, because they gave us money and we paid them maybe 4 or 5% on it, and then we took it out and we loaned it to the people of Anguilla who are sitting in houses today because of that money. And we loaned it at 8% or did whatever. And that is the responsibility of those banks, okay? So how you think you can take over those banks and suddenly make that responsibility vanish is not possible. And eventually it's going to be straightened out in a way that is going to bankrupt whatever bank we put into effect. This is a serious, serious problem. And the only way we can stop it is to generate our economy. You say, okay, but why has our tourism is at a disastrous point at which today, if at the end of May, all of our major hotels closed, they would not have lost a single positive dollar between now and November. Between now and November. So the most sensible thing, some of you may have heard of Curtain Bluff in Antigua. That's the way they used to run every year. They used to close the end of May and open the 1st of November. Is that the economy we want to have in this country now? Think about it. Think what the repercussions of that would be. But from an economic standpoint, that's exactly where we're headed. So you say, all right, how do we turn it around? Basically, there are 4 things that we have to do at this time. If you put it in my hand today, there are 4 things we do. The first thing I would do is I would have a very, very serious meeting with the head of the police in this country. It was easy for me from 94 to 98 to make Anguilla #1, because guess what? We had a slogan, tranquility wrapped in blue. Guess what Anguilla was? At that time, Anguilla was tranquility wrapped in blue. We had a per capita rate, we had the lowest per capita rate of tourism in the world. I had a police piece come in and excuse me, I'm crying in the world. And I had a police commissioner come in when we at the tourist board complained about some minor theft in Little Bay. People breaking into people's trunks and cars and then some kids doing it and what have you. He came in to show us that we shouldn't be so alarmed about that because Anguilla virtually had no crime. And what I explained to him at that time was that when you have no crime, that only accentuates how important it is when one crime occurs and how you deal with it. So the first thing we need to do now is sit down with the police. We need to take the guns out of Anguilla. Think about it. Look at the United States. The United States of America is being destroyed. Over 400 million guns on the streets in a country that doesn't have 300 million people. And they're fighting and arguing about whether they should have assault weapons and this and that. I mean, it's insanity. Well, it's insanity in little Anguilla. Which one of us should have to have a handgun or an automatic weapon of any nature in this island? Is there somebody here that feels they have to have a handgun or an automatic weapon? Please raise your hand. I want to see it and understand why. Are there any hands?
Yes.
You feel you have to have a handgun and an automatic weapon?
No, not really.
All right. All right. Yes.
Well, because of the nature of the job that I used to do in the past, I think I would need something to protect me.
You run a security operation within the context of what Anguilla is now, where citizens are allowed to have handguns in this country, and there is no serious draconian punishment for those who have guns. Yes, of course, as a security officer, you would have to have you would have situations in which you should be armed, just like the police. I mean, in the society I'm talking about, the police should not have to walk around with guns. If we outlaw them, and then we make a penalty of 10 years hard labor in shackles on the roads of Anguilla for anyone who is caught in the possession of one. It doesn't have to be in a crime. It doesn't have to be in anything. I assure you, there are very few people who would challenge that, and if they do, the first person that they see who is apprehended with such a weapon out on the hot sun of Anguilla cleaning the roads in shackles, believe me, the rest of them will take their guns and throw them in the sea or bury them, because they're not going to want to be with them. That's what we need to do. Now, there are those, the British might even say, oh my God, that's a draconian penalty. The draconian penalty is what's happening to our country. That's the draconian penalty. So we have to deal with the crime. We have to once again make Anguilla tranquility wrapped in blue. What else do we have to do? Okay, we have to clean up this island. Anguilla has to be clean. I don't know how many of you have traveled to other 5-star destinations in the world. I have. You go to an island like Sardinia, and you see hotels like Cala de Volpia and these fantastic resorts. Maybe many people haven't had the opportunity. Let me tell you, you get up in the morning, you go outside, you can eat your breakfast off the street, it's so clean. That's the way it is. You don't even see them cleaning it. They have the island set up in such a way that they go out in the wee hours and what have you, and when you come out in the morning, you don't see a scrap of it. You don't, I mean, clean, scrubbed, and ready to go. Let's go, when you're on your way driving back to wherever you're going, take a look at Anguilla and see our problem. Okay? We have to clean our island. What is the third thing that has to be done? All right? We have to improve the transportation into our country. You say, well, and Mr. Lake pointed out, well, if you're going to get talk about an airport, it's going to take years and what have you. We don't have to talk about an airport to improve our economy. Yes, I don't disagree that Anguilla needs an airport. But right now, we have a company named Seabourn coming in here. And we don't have time for me to explain to you. I was in the airline industry, I've been in all of them. And I don't want to explain to you how easily, if we understood the needs of Seabourn, we understood our own needs, and we had a strong tourist board, and I might point out that this tourist board is for the stakeholders in tourism. Unfortunately, we don't have stakeholders in tourism on the tourist board. And the result is that you don't have people on the tourist board with the power to say to the owners of the major hotels, I want you to come to a meeting, and this is the way we're going to deal with tourism. I mean, with transportation. It can be done rather easily. And if the members of the tourist board or somebody want to set it up with Seabourn for me to sit down and we have a meeting, I'll show you how it can get done. All right? The final thing we need to do is that the people of Anguilla and the government of Anguilla really, the only money that they have for the moment until this banking situation collapses is the Social Security Fund. We need to borrow $5 million from the Social security funds and agreed to pay the 2% interest or whatever they can get over at Scotiabank. And what we need to do is systematically market our country in the proper way. We have done little or nothing with the South American market. It's fine to say that Brazil is a poor country, a third world country. Guess what? They have 4 million millionaires in Brazil. And they love to travel during the months when we need people to little destinations like ours. A lot of them have their own private planes, and those who don't can get on Copa Airlines and come to these islands now very comfortably. Okay? In addition to that, the European market has not been properly worked on over the course of the last many years. The Canadian market, we haven't even basically touched the opportunities in the Canadian market. And let me explain something to you about the northeastern part of the United States, which we think is our great market, and it is. I guarantee you that you don't have 2% of the people in the northeastern part of the United States who have ever heard of Anguilla or know where it is. I guarantee you that. So this idea that, oh, Anguilla is known as this luxury destination, and if we go on Fox News Network, and that's going to cause people to come running to Anguilla. It's a fantasy. We need to do a totally different type of market. Mr. Lake, I see you want me to sit down. So I'm going to sit down. But what I say to this board is that unless you're understanding what I'm telling you and you're prepared to stand up and deal with it, if you're prepared not to stand up against the levy and bring it to an end immediately, if you're not prepared to say, all right, there's a prison there and I'm just going to stand up and we're going to bring it to an end. As a business community, that's the only power that we have.
We just have some administrative issues here because our time is going to expire at 11:30, and I'm going to ask Mr. Evangelista to announce the results, but we hope that this discussion will continue after his report.
Good morning once again. I am pleased to announce the results of the voting. We have 46 ballots counted, 1 stale ballot. I will announce it in the order of the number of votes. So with 43 votes, we still have Ms. Sandra Lavelle. With 42 votes, Mr. Kitty Lake. With 40 votes, Mrs. Felicia Hill. With 37 votes, Mr. Desron Bino. And with 36 votes, Ms. Vida Lloyd Richardson, together with, just Ms. Richardson, and with 35 votes, Mr. Trevor Woodley and Mr. Mark Romney. Congratulations. Mr. Pickering has 27 votes and Mr. Gams has 2 votes. Thank you.
Thank you, and there seems to be just one new member, Mr. Bino. Could you stand and let's give him a big hand, please? We welcome you and we look forward to your contributions. And I would ask that the discussions continue. What will happen now is that the staff of the Viceroy will be serving hors d'oeuvres, and we will continue our discussions. So, because we need to hear from you, so let's make the most of this. But before we go there, since I have the floor at this moment, I want to make a presentation here today in recognition of our honored guests and their contribution. And I'd like Mr. Jean Arnel to come forward, please. Mr. Arnell, on behalf of a grateful chamber and for your time, effort, and contribution, we present you with a small memento. We don't have €1 million. On behalf of our membership, thanks for your assistance and the time that you took to enlighten us there what you're doing in St. Martin. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We now invite Mr. Aspal to come forward. I want to thank you for being here and for participating in our 12th anniversary meeting. And on behalf of the Grateful Chamber, we thank you. Mr. Tarakana. You see the direct. You see this man, so you can't, and I went to people who are abroad to become famous, and they just write me all the rules, you know? But anyway, thanks for coming, taking the time out and being here with us today. We appreciate it, and we look forward to your continued cooperation. Now, the floor is open for continued discussion, and they'll be serving hors d'oeuvres, so we'll try and make the most of the time that we have. Thank you. Mr. David Hodge, recognized.
David Hodge from Tropical Distributor. I must say congratulations to the members of the board. And I want to report that all that goes on here this morning, that you set a goal where you want to get from now to every year to come. I thank my friends from St. Martin for their good presentation. It was always in my mind what happened to the streets. From a young age, I was going to my brother. All at once, I see all the business places closed down, and all the St. Martin people, no business on the main streets. But I could understand now that they have to go to school and have a degree to get a business. So I was saying that it was a tax, because I knew that the tax in St. Martin, the business people, that they usually pay once a year. My understanding that the taxman will go and collect tax. And they used to make a lot of fun after us that we have to pay whether once a day or twice a day or every day tax in Anguilla. But they used to pay, my understanding, once a year. And apart from that, my understanding was also that people who had a license, they wouldn't pay for this year. They would run a whole year. And then as the second year, when the taxman come around, he close on his business. So the taxman in St. Martin, he didn't lose one, he didn't lose two. Gone out of business. So the whole streets in St. Martin, on the French side, that we know that every building on the main street was business. And then what I saw, that certain business people in St. Martin, it stopped at the frontier. It's not on the French side. You don't know who they are? No Chinese on the French side. I don't see any. I was told that up Concord Street had some time ago. I don't know if it's still up there. But the problem is that the French side somehow have that control. And and it is not feasible for them to go there. However, my concern is that I am failing in this island. And failing and Anguilla is failing. We coming across with a lot of smuggling on this island. We coming across with a lot of bad invoices. And between us as business people, I have it in mind that the Anguillan love the island, and there's not doing much of that. I believe that there's not cheating the island a lot. I may be wrong, but we have a lot of smuggling all along the island. I can tell because we represent a good amount of companies from throughout the world. There's a lot of work to get a supplier to give you their merchandise to manage. And we can tell that Peter is selling and Peter is not buying the stuff from us. But he have stuff, so they smuggle it. And bad invoices and all kinds of things like that. Customs here today? No customs? The last time they was here and I had said something and then they told me, you didn't even say that it was customs and the government. They said to me, you didn't even say that to say that we need trans. Anyway, they're not here today, maybe. But problem is, I have a problem with smuggling and bad invoices. With all the technology I got in the world, a phone, and all kind of different things, customs can call across the world and find out what is the right price. It's disgusting.
Give us some specific examples so that the membership can understand.
Which one you want to take with the quote now with?
Just one example of what you're dealing with here. How much in the case of Heineken cost?
I came across, I think we did get agency for Heineken, whenever it was, but I have this one in mind. I used to be a sir agent with a cat that said me up in St. Martin. And I did ask him how he was going to get paid. He told me he was going to get paid from Holland. But he didn't get paid, he took it from me. But I was thinking that it was $1, but when he died, I found it was 81 cents. However, I was thankful for him anyhow. He set him up. But what I came across at that time, we used to sell a case of Heineken for $48. But when we got the agency, the bill went down to $44. Well, we bring in a container of Heineken, July coming up to August season, and customs hold it. Hold it, figure he got me, I robbed him. I just pay Holland. They charge $250,000 for us to get the agency. Sounds strange, everybody knows. That must some music hitting in the air. $250,000 they charge for the agency. They bring out $225. To make it very short and not a long way. Food Center was agency for Heineken. In those days, they make the contracts stone. So Heineken was more in my thinking, was the boss of Heineken in Holland. So they couldn't do whatever they want. Heineken, food center run into problems. Holland wants some money. Holland say, well, you all have to, they owe me and you all have to pay me. They charge us that money. They charge us and they charge Sabre and Station, St. Bart's. We sell it lager. Once they sell lager, we sell Pilsner. However, that's the story. But the problem is that customers. He didn't think that when he left here, I used to pay $15,000 a container. A Heineken then. When he come back to it, down 13. So he said he got me. However, that's long stories. The problem is the invoices. We have like we have agency for Corona, and we bring in Corona, the invoices, they're working out. I don't have the right figures right now. But the problem is that St. Martin, the Coronas out there between $17 and $18. Customs right here, he can't get the price out there, but people is landing Corona for all kind of things. $3, $13, $14, and customs take it. I have Corona up there now. And to look at me, a lot of it going to Carito. That's why I'm here speaking. Because I'm going down, the country going down too.
Because it's expired, right? The expiration
Yeah.
date is going.
If we are agent for these stuff, we order certain amount to take us through. Hang on. I came across December with the season starting. We can't wait till the season starts to get things here for our customers. I had a problem with this same company, Viceroy. They take over 50 to 60% and give it to Antillian and St. Martin. When I had done order my stuff for July or August to meet the season, when the government make the policy for these places, they put inside the agreement that if the country can provide them with so-and-so, they buy from us. Now, I want the help, and I want the growth of Chamber, and I want the power from Chamber to help these things, because, as you say, government people who comes, they're not business people. I grew up doing little things, and I have made myself sufficient in business. People come, run for politics, and they respond, they do their thing. So they're not into this type of day-to-day business. So this pure licks that we, the business people, is receiving. So Chamber of Commerce must have some kind of footing and meat to deal with these type of things. I've been told that we, the people of Anguilla, the amount of business we bring out of St. Martin, most of them come from that side, that those people out there is able to employ close to 200 people to suffice the island. The amount of business coming from there here. So we as tropical distributors, we have a good number of agencies, and that will stop some of the flow from there. My figures is that all the stuff that we have, St. Martin is my competition. What's the need that I have the stuff expensive, that you want to work out, that I used to go to St. Martin and buy cheaper. No, we were ready to do that. So all the stuff out there is either $1, $2 or $3 cheaper. But when you look around, you're still seeing a lot of you business people still going to St. Martin to buy the stuff. Apart from that, from churches to every organization throughout the island is nothing that you do for some help and give. They are our children, they are our people, and to hurt our heart that we don't support these organizations. Where are we going to get the support or the profits from if you all don't work together? That is why I'm here speaking. It is not easy, it's pure stress. And I ain't going on by myself, all of us going on together. All of us going down together. It is not an easy job getting agencies from across the world. And it is not an easy job to make reports to them also. I'll tell you one thing that I came across. The world changed. I don't know the years ago, but I could tell you this. I went by lake one morning and telling him I'm going to send Barbados for a container of rum. He said, I ain't sending for none, we got enough rum on the island. So I said to him, we had done by a container together, but this time he's not joining with me to send for rum. I'm coming back to that. I already have do my work on the island by keeping feds in solid ground to build my status up to satisfy the rum company in Barbados to give me the agency for the rum. Because Antillian had come over once or twice and pay for the fed on solid ground. So I had to do my best to do what I had to do to satisfy the people in Barbados that I was doing a better job. So they give me the agent. And as I'm with the August Fed in solid ground, I'm hearing now that somebody is going around and saying that we does not support the August Fed. All kind of disgusting people you got on this island. Your own people. Disgusting. That Fed in solid ground I started with Milwaukee having feds in solid ground. Then my partner, which gave me the sir agent for St. Martin with Henneken, we went on to Henneken, having a Henneken race on Sunday. And the Fed, these fellas now is coming and say that tropical distributors does not offer anything to Solid Ground Fed. The problem is, what does he know? You pay all kind of money when Saturday come. When Saturday comes, Sunday come, you don't have fixed up all kind of boots on the beach, and all kind of money goes to the organization for the boat race, all kind of stuff. What do you call it? I mean the show what we just had. All kind of money is paid out, but these fellas doesn't understand. They used to go to St. Martin organizations, and they used to be insulted out there, and tell them they don't have no money. Left Anguilla people take care of the Fed. That at one time, that's when Calvert and them fellas there, they got a lot of insults. You want to say something, sir?
No, I'm just trying to summarize. What do you want us as a chamber to focus on in terms of the issues that you are facing?
Well, I want the chamber to take all the notes. You can't do them all at one time. Choose what we're going to work after. I want the chambers to go to the government, customs. First one is to try to collect all this money while they're smuggling, bad invoices. Just what I spoke with these people who were in charge of the groups who are in charge of the Fed downside of the ground, to sedate themselves. Because it is very, very vexed and disgusting to be saying that tropical. How are you going to make profits? How are you going to make profits when a lot of people is still shopping in St. Martin? How are you going to make profits when people is bringing bad invoices, you can't get your stuff sold? Because they're bringing in cut invoices, so they're making a lot of profit after that. And my stuff is going carry toll. That's why I'm here. I can't sit and don't say anything. It is disgusting. It is disgusting. And a message for those fellas, I don't think the women are walking boats, who's smuggling. They must understand that those boats, in my estimation, is cost over between $70,000 to $100,000 for that boat. Because they've got to be over 28 to 30 hard footers. The engines alone on that boat cost between $40,000 to $50,000 in the hull. Now when you get in trouble, who you going to battle to? Politicians? They need to stop. Stop it. And tell him I say I'm talking because I'm hurted and my business is going down. I know that times is hard and government is responsible for a lot of that for the last years when we make those heavy duties. They left a lot of room there for people to help themselves. 56% for you people that doesn't do business, for all those beers and stouts and them that over 5% alcohol, 56% cigarettes, 56% sweets is shit. Sorry for the language. Sweets, 65% hidden. There. Go all those things. Everything kill you. Gluttonous kill you. Sugar kill you. Water kill you. Everything that's gluttonous. Everything is put in the world for people to live. Just gluttonous will kill you. Sweets don't kill you. Gluttony kill. Well, what kill you?
So Mr. Hodge, if I understand you correctly, then you would like the chamber to inquire as to why, if you have a distributorship, we have some inquiry. Why are those goods being imported in contradiction of your agreement? Is that one of the issues?
Yes, that's a good one. Thank you.
Secondly, and I think Mr. Arnett spoke to this, why is customs, in this digital age, letting declarations go by that could be checked in a quick second as to what the real cost of the goods are, like $3 per case of what you said, Corona, and these things are going through, and these things can be checked very easily. So you want better enforcement of those goods that are outside your distributorship that you yourself import, but you want a level playing field.
Yes, if to be in a level playing field, they would not see it profitable to import it.
Everybody's paying the same thing.
Yeah, it is the same price. It is okay.
Mr. Hodge, we're going to certainly take that up and bring it forward as part of our discussions with government. We understand your case, understand your pain, and we certainly appreciate the support of the chamber.
I'm going to stop here. I'm very thankful, and I hope the chamber will take all the notes, which everybody say, Mr. Gomes.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Do you have a comment, sir? Okay.
Pardon?
Someone there?
Good morning, everybody. Lauren from Black Market.
Yeah, just state your name, please.
Lauren Jackson. I have a question. Well, some concerns actually. In terms of customs, everybody, most people here own a business, and we have to pay some hefty customs dues. In terms of what can be done to help aid us in bringing those fees down, because if the fees continue the way they are, then most of us who have companies will no longer be able to afford to bring in stuff to the island, hence companies die. One of my biggest problems is just the other day, we had a product that came in. The product was worth $150. The freight was $300. We ended up paying customs $300 US on a product that cost literally nothing because they charge based on freight and the item, which to us is ridiculous because why are you charging me on freight for something that I have no control over and still also paying all these different fees, the taxes, the import duties and everything. It's crazy. And it's gonna drive companies to do stuff like what he was just speaking about because at the end of the day, we have to survive. I might have an alternative because for me, I have a company in St. Martin. And at the end of the day, I will screw the government over and have my stuff go backward and forward and pay nothing. So it comes to a point whether we want to work together and be fair about things or do we want to be paying nothing to the government and everybody gets nothing from my point of view. So it's really disturbing that especially for young people trying to do business, we are so screwed over by a system that does not want to change, does not feel adequate about change, and they're just comfortable about moving forward, doing things every day the same way.
Yeah. I will just note that we have received a number of complaints through the years about the customs service fee, which has no relationship to the service that's being provided. It is, in essence, additional duty. But if that is what it is, say so and amend the schedules, but don't be tacking on 6% for some administrative fee when it bears no relationship to what the services are being provided. Ms. Connor?
Yes, good morning.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much to the Chamber for your continued efforts in creating an atmosphere where we all can thrive. I think at the end of the day, as members of the Chamber, we have to understand that the onus is on us to create policies and systems that protect us and protect our interests. Sometimes we are inclined to think that when something doesn't affect us, that it will not impact our businesses. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to Mr. Hodge talking about the fact that he has the exclusive rights to carry particular brands at tropical distributors, and our government and our systems are not doing what is necessary to protect him and his exclusive right to bring in particular products. I think we have to understand that if we don't go about making the decisions to protect other people, it's only a matter of time before things happen that negatively impact ourselves. So it's not just about smuggling, it's bigger than that. It's about us creating the framework within which people can actually go about doing their businesses and feel secure that there are systems in place to protect them and their investments. I mean, when you drive by the Tropical Flower building, all of us should be humbled by the investment that they've made over the years. So I say congratulations to you, Mr. Hodge, and I hope that your complaints don't fall on deaf ears. And it's not just distribution of liquor. I mean, it's the exclusive right to carry particular brands to carry Adrian Kobe's here. I'm quite sure that he has the right to carry furniture brands, etc. We really need to create the framework, like I said. At this point, too, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for supporting myself and the efforts we have been doing under the name of Sandy Island Enterprises. Last year, you guys supported me overwhelmingly when we opened Sharpie Shake Shack for the first time. And I want to take this opportunity to invite you back to spend the evening with us on Thursday and Friday, June 30th and July 1st, when we're going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. I look forward to having you all there. And on a lighter note, I want to share with you our plans to actually host a festival in November, which is going to be dubbed Living in the Sun. I see Sandra shaking her head because she was one of the people who I actually shot the breeze with and got ideas, because the goal is for me, it's a very selfish idea. When I met with the general manager of Viceroy, and he asked me, well, why are you doing this? I said to him, when people come to Anguilla, they come to Sandy Island because they've heard of Sandy Island in Anguilla. I personally, as a goal for myself and for my company, I want people to come to Anguilla because of Sandy Island, because they want to experience Sandy Island. And we are now in the process of embarking on a collaborative approach to a national festival, which will be called Living in the Sun, and it's going to be a sensory journey of sorts, where DJs and artists from all over the world will transcend and come to Anguilla to experience living in the sun. We already have local partners, local venues that are partnering with us to host nighttime events, and Sandy Island will be the major host of daytime events. It's going to be truly a collaborative win-win opportunity for everyone, and in the next coming months you're going to be hearing more from me. And if I don't contact you and you can conceive of any possible way that you can partner with us, by all means reach out to me. And I just want to share that little bit. Again, thanks so much and congratulations on your efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Thank you very much, Keith. I just want to speak about a little bit relative to the notes that I took. While you were speaking, we mentioned 1,355 business licenses were issued last year, and 189 members of those businesses are members of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We become a little bit monotonous. Last year I was here, we spoke about the same issues. Last year I was here, I heard Mr. Hodge speak about the same issues relative to the protection of his exclusive agreements. You know, this was last year. He spoke about the under-invoicing last year. And we know it happens. Government agencies, including the Customs Department, which was there last year, including the Control of Customs, they know it happened. But I think there's an ingrained laziness as part of the Anguilla Public Service to do what is necessary to uphold the laws of Anguilla. Let me give you a classic example. In 2010, just after we came to office, Mr. Delroy Lake came to me. I was a member of Parliament at the time, about a situation that occurs frequently on our beaches relative to beach vending. And together, along with other government agencies, it was tedious, but we finally was able to get legislation not only drafted but passed through the House. That legislation came with regulations and everything was set and done maybe about 4 years ago. And today we still have those existing problems on our beaches. Today we still have vendors out of St. Martin still coming to Anguilla. And we're not discriminating against our St. Martin brothers and sisters, as we have both French and Dutch side here. And I was told recently that my great-grandmother, came from French cul-de-sac, so I have some ties in St. Martin as well, as we all do. But there are regulations as it relates to doing business in Anguilla. And these individuals come to Anguilla and they get through customs, even though customs is furnished with the regulations and the legislation. But they get through customs and they go to the beaches and they harass our tourists, literally harass our tourists. I was down at the beach shack and I sat there and saw vendors come there in car rental agencies literally shaking the tourists on the beach and harassing them to buy their cheap Chinese wares. Now, so the problem isn't that we don't have things in place. You know, we have the Litter Abatement Act, And we have all of these things in place, but nobody does their job. And that is the problem, the fundamental problem that we have in this country. Nobody does their job. FSC doesn't do their job. ECCB didn't do their job. Maybe Alan didn't do his job as a director of the bank as well, I don't know. But the point of the matter is that nobody does their job in this country. And we see that throughout the length and breadth of this country in all different aspects, from the dishwasher all the way up to the chief bottle cook, whatever you want to call it. So while we were in government, Mr. Keith Lake and I, we worked on a policy that would have led to legislation to ensure that every business in Anguilla become a member of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce Industry. We went to the Executive Council with it on multiple occasions. That policy would ensure too that the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce would be the last say-so as it relates to granting business licenses. So we hear all of the noise about Chinese businesses, and I'm not opposed to Chinese business. I'm not opposed to any business in Anguilla. Let me say that straight, right? But we hear all of the noise about Chinese businesses in Anguilla and what have you, right? Persons coming in and fronting and what have you. The Chamber of Commerce would have had the power to vet all of these things to determine whether or not a business is granted a license. But again, there's a certain level of laziness in the Anguilla Public Service, and Alan spoke about retrenchment, and that needs to happen. I mean, I walked out of the Ministry of Finance, and there were 5 secretaries. 5 secretaries in the Ministry of Finance. I mean, that's unheard of. So the point of the matter is that there's a lot of wastage, and we continue to burden people. So let us talk a little bit about taxation, right? Lauren spoke about the issues with taxation. That's a serious issue, right? Customs, we have decided back in the 1970s to come up with a customs procedure code to generate revenue for Anguilla, right? And that is the way we generate revenue. And it's perhaps the best way to generate revenue in Anguilla. And here's why I say that. Anguillians just don't like to pay taxes. 39% of the people in Anguilla who owns property pay property tax. 39%. So me and you, who have been compliant forever, every year our property tax go up. So they punish me for paying my property tax. They punish me for being compliant. And I'm saying me, I'm talking me in general, right? But that other, what is it, 71%? 61%? Thank you, Trevor. Trevor's a banker, he would know these things. That other 61% never pays anything. And the political will and the will of the people who are tasked with the responsibility to collect the taxes is not there. So we continue to find ways to increase the customs duties. In 2001, we implemented the customs surcharge. And in 2012, we increased the customs surcharge. And there's further plans to increase the customs surcharge. We have seen the property tax in Anguilla increase exponentially. We have seen a retention of the interim stabilization levy. Whatever you want to say about it, yes or no. I mean, I voted against it when it came to Parliament. That's a matter of public record. But whatever you want to say about it, it's a tax that is being collected. So if the persons who are responsible with tax collection is, what do you call it, Zacchaeus? What's it, Zacchaeus? If the persons who are responsible for tax collection, and we as individuals in Anguilla, live up to our obligation to pay our taxes, and those people collect their taxes, including accommodation tax from all of these hotels who underreport property accommodation tax. These hotels, Viceroy, and the Cap Julucas, and the Cuisinarts, and all of them rip off the people of Anguilla all the time, and everybody is afraid to say it. Because here is it. We know that service charge is 10% on the room rate. We know accommodation tax is 10% on the room rate. So how is it? Service charge is paid at $10, gross figure, and accommodation tax is paid at $2. And I've said time and time again during my time in office, both publicly and privately, to those persons responsible for collecting the taxes, you don't need no new regime. All you got to do, you already have the legal framework to go to these hotels and open up their books and look at their books and see what the accommodation tax that needs to be collected. So it's an honor system. It's a dishonorable honor system. because they continue to rip us off. As much as we give them in terms of concessions and tax breaks, they continue to rip this country off. So what are we going to do about it? Every single year, I've been a member of the chamber. Before I was a member of the chamber, I would come to these meetings, right? When I was in government, I would come to these meetings. But every single year, I hear the same things being said time and time again. I'm so glad that the country manager will flow. Sorry, I almost said line. I might have said cable and wireless for all you know. But I'm so glad that he has been elected to be a member of the chamber, because it brings in some fresh ideas from new blood, because we really need to agitate for these things. Because if we don't agitate for these things, and to ensure that, because the Chief Minister, Mr. Victor Banks, had given assurances that he too is supportive of the initiatives of the Anguilla Chamber of Commerce. So we must impress on the government of Anguilla to look at the policies, because they're still sitting there, that we worked on, Kittle, to ensure that these move forward, so that every business, that every person that wants to do business in Anguilla, whether it's a local or foreign business, must go through the chamber, because that will generate a type of financial resources to make sure that the chamber generates business for businesses. And people got to understand that if you don't have healthy and thriving business in Anguilla, everybody suffers. People suffer. Everybody. You don't have a job. Nobody have jobs if you don't have thriving business. So I just want to close on this. And this is related to what Mr. Hart said, relative to alcohol and what have you, the duties. I would like to say that I'm personally responsible for the increase in duties on alcohol. And I make no apologies relative to that, because alcohol is wreaking havoc on this country. I have spent time talking to doctors at both the Hughes Medical Center and the government-owned, quasi-government-owned Anguilla Health Authority. And they said one of the biggest problems that we have in Anguilla is the consumption of alcohol and sugars. Sugars cause cancers. Yes, we know people should have the freedom of choice, but since the government and people of Anguilla have to foot the bill on so many occasions, we don't have no social safety net. But when everybody gets sick and they don't have the money to do it, government don't print money. The money comes from all of us. We pay the cost of those persons who have been irresponsible in not having insurance and not taking care of themselves. We pay that cost, right? So, since you want to make us pay that cost, then you have to pay a little more for your alcohol. So, Mr. Hodge may have a decline in his alcohol sales, but that is not due to the duty. Let me say why it is not due to the duty. Because if you look at government receipts as it relates to collection of duty, on collections in terms of alcohol, it's higher, it's much higher than what the rate increase was. So it means as a nation, we're drinking more alcohol. So it seems as if there was not a dissuasion, the increase in duties, but at least government should have some more money to help foot your medical health bills. So Mr. Hodge's problem is not an increase in the duty, you know. Mr. Hodge's problem is the under-invoicing by his competitors and the smuggling that occurs that everybody knows is out in the open here. You think the customs department don't know the under-invoicing is happening? Because how is it that Mr. Hodge is going to bring in an invoice for a case of Heineken that shows that that case of Heineken costs $10 and Hayden Hughes bringing up from the same vendor costing $2. And Mr. Hodge is bringing it in a much larger quantity. That is out in plain sight. So they're not doing their job. So how the chamber can help Mr. Hodge is to ensure that this under-invoicing that occurs, and it happens not only in his industry, but it happens especially in the grocery stores. Mark shops from St. Martin, right? He brings in goods from St. Martin. But I know of Chinese vendors who, and I said again, I don't discriminate against particular, but this happens, who shop from the same place as Mark, and his duties are much higher because his invoices are much higher. I mean, how difficult it is for the technical staff in the Ministry of Finance. I'm going to say the technical staff in the Ministry of Finance, I'm talking about the Customs and Excise Department and these other departments, to look at these things and say, wait, something is wrong here. That don't need no investigation. Investigation is done, it's put on your desk. So the reality is that the chamber needs to agitate more change directly in the Ministry of Finance. And I know the Minister of Finance would do what he needs to do to help the chamber. But at the same time, we got to find some way, somehow, to ensure that those under the Minister of Finance, meaning the public service, do the work that they need to do. Because that's where the real problem is. The problem isn't the politicians, you know. Politicians get the blame, yes. But the real problem isn't the politicians. We have a sick, perverted constitutional system where the Constitution has, the politicians have zero jurisdiction over the Anguilla Public Service. And the Anguilla Public Service does what they want, don't show up to work when they want. Miss days, go on a little gallivanting, drinking beers along the side of the street. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing anybody can do about it. You report it to who? Who are you reporting to? The Deputy Governor is responsible for the Anguilla Public Service. The Deputy Governor answers to the Governor. And the Governor, and I'm not talking about Ms. Queen said, I'm talking about the Governor as an institution, does nothing. So where are we going? So we'll continue, and next year I'll be here, God's willing. And we'll be talking about the very same issues next year.
Well, we hope not. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We are really out of time because, you know, we should have been out 30 minutes ago. Let me just call on Ms. Lily Moses to give the vote of thanks, and then we will have a move for an adjournment. And Ms. Moses.
Well, I guess now it's good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, my task this afternoon is to give the vote of thanks. I would like to take this time to thank Viceroy Anguilla for allowing us to have the opportunity to host the ACOSI's 12th Annual General Meeting. We are most grateful to our guest speaker, Mr. Jean-T. Arnel, and his assistant, Ms. Luciana Raspel, for accepting our invitation. A special thank you must be given to Mr. Claret Connor, Executive Director from the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for gracing us with his presence today. We certainly appreciate him attending our event. Thank you to International Computer Systems, better known as GAF, for setting up the PA system. Much thanks to Anguilla Access and KCN Network for the coverage of this event. Thank you to all other media for their news coverage. Thanks to the Board of Directors of the ACOSI for the time and commitment that they give to the Chamber. I would also like to personally thank my colleague and assistant, Mrs. Karen Pina, for always going above and beyond to help me. And last but certainly not the least, I thank you, our faithful members, for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend our AGM. We are most appreciative of your presence this afternoon. God bless.
And just before we move to adjourn the meeting, I would just like to let members know that we are going to produce some summaries of all the discussions here. They will be online. There'll be a copy of my remarks also online. So you can further have that for reference. And I just want to, yes, Mr. Hodge, just.
I thought it was maybe remiss of me, right, to leave here and get away with a comment immediately. Because I'm a technical person in the public, right? This is by corporate government. They don't consider the technical people with the companies that does. Because my advice to him was to increase the heavy alcohol tax and leave the big tax. Now, what is taxation effective at the 62% responsibility? Was to move people from the beer, from drinking beers, because beers are very light in alcohol, to the heavy alcohol. And that's why the cabinet has not changed, right? Because the tax is incorrect. The government with the realizing revenues, right, but that is also correct. We can say that smuggling has increased because what? We have 40 years that was on the play with and the case of Tamar. So now the now is big business, right? So the tax is imbalance, right? And it doesn't replace something that we get rid of.
Yeah, sure. What I would suggest myself, we're gonna if things move ahead the way we anticipate that they will in the coming year, our members are going to have a lot of opportunity to be part of different committees that are going to meet with government to get some of these things worked out and fixed, so we'll have much opportunity. So again, thank you. Very lively discussion. I want to emphasize that I want to see this level of enthusiasm carried over. Participate in chamber activities, reach out to us, push us, prod us. We got to change the dynamic in this country because you know we have no other choice. So with that, I ask now for someone to move for an adjournment of this 12th annual general meeting. Mr. Hughes, and secondly, Mr. Thompson. All in favor of the adjournment? Aye. All opposed? Okay, until next AGM. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you. Bye-bye.